Part 1. Introduction. Two roads, two futures. Most people don't realize it, but every day we are quietly choosing between two very different futures. One is the well-worn road. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, climb the ladder, and hope that decades later, a pension or retirement account will be enough to live on. The other road is less familiar, often invisible at first glance, yet filled with opportunity. The path where you design your own financial destiny, where money works for you instead of you working for money. The truth is, both roads begin at the same intersection: childhood lessons, family beliefs, and social expectations. Yet the direction we take depends largely on the ideas we absorb about money. For most of us, the default teachings are simple. Study hard, get a good job, and you'll be secure. But in a world that changes faster than ever, that old promise is fading. Companies fold, industries vanish, and job security is more illusion than guarantee. This book is about that second road, the one less traveled, but far more rewarding. It's not about luck or insider secrets or quick fixes. It's about mindset. It's about daring to think differently, to question the financial advice that has been recycled for generations, and to design a life that prioritizes freedom over conformity. The two roads in real life. Imagine two friends who grow up in the same neighborhood. Both are intelligent, ambitious, and full of potential. Let's call them Alex and Chris. Alex follows the traditional script. He studies diligently, earns a degree, and lands a stable job at a reputable company. At first, the salary feels liberating. He buys a new car, rents a nice apartment, and enjoys the thrill of being successful. But soon, bills pile up. Credit cards, student loans, and the pressure to keep up eat away at his paycheck. Each year, his raises barely keep pace with expenses. The more he earns, the more he spends. Alex works hard, but his money slips through his fingers. Chris takes another route. He also studies, but instead of only focusing on grades and career ladders, he pays attention to the world of money itself. He learns about investing, about how assets grow, about the difference between owning something that feeds you versus something that drains you. Chris works, but he also builds. He buys his first small investment property, learns how to manage cash flow, and experiments with side businesses. Instead of chasing promotions, he chases freedom. Over time, his assets grow, and soon they generate income that covers his basic needs. Work becomes optional, not mandatory. Both friends started at the same point. The difference wasn't intelligence, background, or luck. It was mindset, the road each chose to walk. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, which road are you on right now? The one working for money, or the one where money works for you? Why this book exists. Think Rich, Live Free is born from a simple realization. Financial freedom is not reserved for the privileged few. It's not only for CEOs, inventors, or lottery winners. It is available to anyone willing to learn the language of money, to think differently from the crowd, and to take consistent action. Unfortunately, most of us were never given that education. Schools rarely teach how money actually works. Instead, we memorize historical dates, solve equations, or write essays, valuable skills, but not the ones that determine whether we struggle paycheck to paycheck or create wealth that lasts. By the time we enter adulthood, we're already playing catch-up, trying to decipher mortgages, taxes, investments, and credit without a clear guide. This book is that guide. Not a technical manual filled with jargon, but a conversation, a mentor's voice, showing you how to step off the treadmill of endless labor and onto the path of ownership, growth, and freedom. What Think Rich, Live Free really means. The title isn't just a slogan, it's a philosophy. Think Rich doesn't mean obsess over luxury or dream of yachts and mansions. It means cultivating a mindset that sees possibilities instead of limitations, that understands money as a tool, not a master. It's about asking, how can I build assets, rather than, how can I afford this payment? It's the mental shift from scarcity to abundance. Live free is the outcome of that thinking. Freedom doesn't always mean quitting your job tomorrow. It means reaching a point where you work because you want to, not because you have to. It means having choices to travel, to spend time with family, to create, to contribute, without being chained to the next paycheck. Together, these two ideas form the heartbeat of this book. The cost of the wrong road. To understand why this matters, consider the cost of staying on the traditional road. Millions of people work tirelessly for decades, yet never escape financial stress. They delay dreams, the trip, the house, the time with kids, always waiting for someday. Too often, someday never comes. Debt becomes a lifelong companion. Retirement feels uncertain. Health suffers from stress. And perhaps the greatest tragedy is not the money lost, but the freedom sacrificed. Years slip by, traded for security that was never secure. No one chooses this road intentionally. It happens silently, almost invisibly, because people don't know another way exists. A new map for a new era. We live in an era where opportunity is more abundant than ever, yet so is distraction. Technology has leveled the playing field. You don't need to inherit wealth or work on Wall Street to create financial independence. What you need is clarity. A map. This book is that map. It doesn't promise shortcuts or magic formulas. What it offers is perspective. Lessons drawn from those who've walked the road of freedom, distilled into steps anyone can apply. It offers encouragement, stories and examples proving that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results. And it offers action, practical ways to start building your own financial foundation today. Your journey starts here. As you read, you may recognize patterns in your own life. Maybe you've felt the pressure of bills that never end, or the frustration of working hard but not moving forward. Or maybe you're already curious about investments, entrepreneurship, or building assets, but you need clarity to take the next step. Wherever you are, this book meets you there. Each chapter is designed to shift your thinking, equip you with knowledge, and inspire you to act. Because knowledge without action is just theory, and theory doesn't pay the bills or buy freedom. The choice, in the end, is yours. Two roads, two futures. One promises predictability, but little freedom. The other demands courage, but offers independence. Which road will you take? If this introduction spoke to you, I'd love to hear your perspective. Share in the comments what road you feel you're walking right now. And if you find value here, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps bring these lessons to more people who need them. Together, we'll continue the journey toward financial freedom, one step at a time. Part 2. The money myth we're taught in school. From the time we are children, society gives us a script. Go to school, get good grades, earn a degree, find a secure job. For decades, this script was accepted as truth. Teachers repeated it, parents encouraged it, guidance counselors handed it out like a map to success. And in many ways, it worked, at least in the past. But here's the uncomfortable reality. The world has changed, yet the script hasn't. Schools still prepare students for a world of steady jobs, pensions, and lifetime employment. Meanwhile, automation, globalization, and shifting economies have erased that world. The script is broken, yet millions of people continue to follow it, faithfully, unquestioningly, and often to their own detriment. The lesson we never learned. Think back to your own education. How many hours did you spend studying history, memorizing formulas, or writing essays? And how many hours did anyone spend teaching you about credit cards, mortgages, taxes, or investments? For most people, the answer is obvious: almost none. It's not that these academic subjects lack value. But when it comes to navigating real life, paying bills, building wealth, avoiding debt traps, our education system is shockingly silent. We leave school fluent in algebra, but financially illiterate. We know the periodic table, but don't know the difference between an asset and a liability. This gap is no accident. Schools were originally designed during the industrial age. The goal wasn't to create independent thinkers or entrepreneurs. It was to produce obedient workers who could follow instructions punch a clock, and keep factories running. That model might have made sense in 1900. But today, in a world where knowledge, capital, and technology flow freely, preparing students only to be employees is like teaching people how to ride horses in the age of airplanes. The comfort of the myth. So why does this myth persist? Because it's comfortable. The story that a good education guarantees a good life is reassuring. It gives parents hope. It gives teachers purpose. It gives young people a sense of direction. To question it feels risky, even ungrateful. But comfort doesn't equal truth. Look around. How many people with degrees are drowning in student loans, working jobs unrelated to their field of study, or struggling to make ends meet? How many talented graduates discover too late that their education gave them a diploma but no financial foundation? The myth lives on because it's easier to repeat than to replace. And until someone points out the cracks in the story, most people will keep marching along, hoping the old promises still hold. The hidden cost of blind faith. Here's the danger. When we blindly trust the school to job to retirement script, we often sacrifice decades of potential wealth building. We borrow tens of thousands for college without understanding interest rates. We celebrate a salary while ignoring taxes and inflation. We buy liabilities, cars, gadgets, houses too big for our budget, mistaking them for assets. And we trade our time for money, never realizing there's another way. By the time the average person realizes the truth, they are deep in debt, locked into a lifestyle they can barely afford, and dependent on a paycheck they can't afford to lose. The system doesn't just fail to teach financial literacy, it sets people up to become lifelong consumers instead of owners. The knowledge divide. In today's world, the real divide isn't between rich and poor, educated and uneducated, or even skilled and unskilled. It's between those who understand money and those who don't. Two people can earn the same salary, yet one ends up broke while the other becomes wealthy. The difference isn't intelligence or effort, it's knowledge. The one who understands how money works can make it grow. The one who doesn't will watch it disappear. Financial literacy, the ability to understand cash flow, assets, liabilities, investments, and taxes, is the single greatest skill schools don't teach. And that's why this book exists. To fill the gap, to replace the myth with a map. Rewriting the script. Imagine if, from a young age, students learned how to budget, invest, and build assets. Imagine if they were taught the basics of entrepreneurship, the power of compound interest, and the reality of taxes before they entered the workforce. Imagine if financial freedom was seen as just as essential as reading and writing. How different would our world look? Fewer young adults would drown in credit card debt. More families would own income-generating assets. Retirement wouldn't feel like a gamble, but a certainty. People would work because they chose to, not because they were trapped. The script can be rewritten, and it begins with each of us deciding to step outside the myth and learn the truth about money for ourselves. Your awakening. This chapter isn't about blaming schools, teachers, or parents. They did the best they could with what they knew. Instead, it's about awakening. It's about realizing that if you want financial freedom, you must take responsibility for your own education. That means reading, listening, practicing, and experimenting. It means asking hard questions. Do I really know the difference between an asset and a liability? Am I building something that will feed me or something that will drain me? Am I following the old script out of habit, or am I consciously choosing my path? The answers to these questions will reveal whether you're still trapped in the myth or whether you're ready to break free. A new kind of classroom. Think of this book as your new classroom. But instead of desks and chalkboards, it's filled with real-life lessons. Instead of exams, there are choices. And instead of grades, there are results. Here, the goal isn't to memorize theories or impress a teacher. The goal is freedom. to learn enough about money that you no longer fear it, chase it, or ignore it. To understand it so well that it becomes a servant, not a master. This is your education for the world we actually live in. A world where the old promises no longer work, but where opportunities are greater than ever for those who can see them. Closing thoughts. The money myth we were taught in school was never malicious. It was simply outdated. But if you cling to it, it will chain you to mediocrity. If you challenge it, it can set you free. The choice, as always, is yours. Stay asleep in the comfort of the story, or wake up to the truth and take control of your financial future. Before we move on, I'd love to hear your perspective. Did school ever teach you anything practical about money? Share your answer in the comments. And if you find these insights helpful, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss the next chapter as we keep rewriting the script together. Part 3. Why the wealthy don't trade time for money. Time is the most precious resource we have. Unlike money, we can't earn more of it. Unlike possessions, we can't replace it once it's gone. And yet, for most people, time is exactly what they sell every single day. They trade hours for dollars, believing it's the only way to survive. The wealthy understand something different. If you spend your entire life exchanging time for money, you will always be trapped. No matter how high the salary, you are limited by the same 24 hours in a day. The wealthy escape this trap, not because they work harder, but because they learn to make money work for them. The hourly illusion. From childhood, we're trained to equate work with pay. Babysit for 2 hours, get $20. Work 40 hours a week, collect a paycheck. On the surface, it seems fair. Honest effort rewarded with honest wages. But look deeper. This system has a hidden ceiling. You can only work so many hours. You can only stretch yourself so thin. Even with promotions and raises, your income is tethered to your time. This is the hourly illusion. The belief that trading time for money will ever lead to freedom. It won't. At best, it leads to survival. At worst, it leads to burnout. The wealthy reject this illusion. They see time not as a currency to be spent, but as capital to be invested. The power of leverage. So, how do they escape the trap? Through leverage. Leverage is the ability to multiply your efforts beyond your own time and labor. For the wealthy, this comes in many forms. Money. Leverage. Investing in assets that generate returns, from real estate to stocks to businesses. People leverage. Building teams, hiring talent, and creating systems that continue working even when the owner steps away. Technology leverage. Using tools, automation, and platforms to scale income far beyond personal capacity. The difference is stark. An employee's income stops the moment they clock out. An investor's income continues while they sleep. A business owner's systems keep producing even during vacation. That's why the wealthy prioritize leverage. It breaks the one-to-one link between time and money. A tale of two workers. Consider Sarah and David. Both are ambitious. Both work hard. Sarah lands a corporate job earning $80,000 a year. She's diligent, reliable, and puts in long hours. But her salary depends on showing up. If she takes time off, her pay shrinks. If she gets sick, her income halts. David, on the other hand, starts a small business managing vending machines. At first, he works hard, scouting locations, negotiating contracts, stocking products. But over time, he hires someone to handle restocking. He invests in better machines that track sales automatically. Soon, his role shifts from daily labor to oversight. His machines make money whether he's present or not. Sarah works harder and harder, hoping for incremental raises. David works smarter, creating systems that multiply his time. After a decade, Sarah has earned a steady living but little freedom. David, even if his business isn't glamorous, has income streams that free his time for new ventures. Both worked hard. Only one escaped the trap of trading time for money. Why salaries can be dangerous. A salary may feel safe, but it can also be dangerous. It creates the illusion of security while locking you into dependence. You become comfortable with predictable checks, Yet those checks stop the moment the company downsizes, restructures, or replaces you. Worse, a salary often discourages creativity. Why experiment, take risks, or pursue new ideas when you're rewarded for compliance? Many brilliant minds spend their lives inside this golden cage, never realizing that their creativity could generate far more wealth outside of it. The wealthy understand that true security doesn't come from a paycheck. It comes from owning assets, creating value, and building systems that last beyond individual effort. The asset mindset. Escaping the time for money trap requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn per hour?" the wealthy ask, "How can I build something that earns even when I'm not there?" This is the asset mindset. It looks for opportunities where effort today creates income tomorrow. Write a book, record a course, launch an app, invest in property. Each is work up front, but once created, it can generate income again and again. Contrast that with working overtime. You put in more hours, you earn a one-time reward, and then it's gone. The next month, you start from zero again. That's the difference between income from labor and income from assets. Fear keeps people trapped. If this idea seems obvious, why don't more people escape the trap? Fear. Fear of failure. What if my business doesn't work? Fear of rejection. What will people think if I try something different? Fear of uncertainty. At least my paycheck is guaranteed. These fears are real, but they're also the chains that keep people bound to the hourly illusion. The wealthy feel fear too. They simply refuse to let it dictate their choices. They take calculated risks, learn from mistakes, and move forward. Freedom requires courage. Without it, time will always belong to someone else. Practical first steps. You don't need millions to start escaping the trap. You just need a shift in perspective. Here are small steps anyone can take. Track your time. Notice how much of your week is spent earning versus building. If it's all earning, start carving time for building. Invest early. Even small investments, consistently made, compound into significant income streams. Start a side asset. Whether it's an online project, a rental unit, or a product you create, build something once that can keep generating value. Learn about systems. Study automation, delegation, and scaling. The more you can remove yourself from the equation, the freer you become. These steps may seem small, but they are seeds. Given time and care, they grow into forests of opportunity. Closing thoughts. The wealthy don't avoid work. They simply refuse to tie their income to their hours. They build assets, create systems, and leverage time, money, and technology so that their wealth expands even when they rest. You can do the same. The first step is recognizing the trap. The second is choosing to step out of it. Remember, every day you spend trading time for money is a day you could have invested in freedom. Don't let the clock dictate your destiny. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt trapped in the cycle of working hard but never getting ahead? Share your story in the comments below. Your honesty might inspire someone else who's listening right now. And if these insights resonate with you, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Together, we'll keep uncovering the principles that let us think rich and live free. Part 4. The language of money. Assets versus liabilities. Every field has its own language. Doctors speak in terms of symptoms, diagnoses, and treatments. Lawyers argue with precedents, statutes, and clauses. Programmers write in codes and algorithms. If you don't know the language, the conversation feels foreign, even intimidating. Money is no different. It has a language of its own. The problem is that most people never learn it. They spend their lives working for money without understanding how money actually works. They confuse terms, misinterpret signs, and end up making decisions that keep them trapped instead of free. The wealthy, however, speak this language fluently. And at the heart of it is one simple distinction: assets versus liabilities. The Great Divide. If you learn nothing else from this book, learn this. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. It sounds almost too simple, but it's astonishing how many people miss it. They think their house is an asset, when in reality, it drains them through mortgage payments, taxes, and maintenance. They believe a new car is an asset, yet its value drops the moment they drive it off the lot. Assets feed you. Liabilities eat you. The wealthy build columns of assets. The poor and middle class accumulate liabilities disguised as assets. That difference determines who becomes free and who remains trapped. Why simplicity matters. You don't need an advanced degree in finance to understand this. In fact, sometimes complex financial advice only clouds the truth. The beauty of this principle is its clarity. Buy something that pays you? That's an asset. Buy something that costs you? That's a liability. Simple, direct, unmistakable. And once you begin seeing the world through this lens, your financial decisions transform. You no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" Instead, you ask, "Does this pay me or does this drain me?" That one question is the compass pointing you toward freedom. Common illusions. Let's break a few myths that keep people stuck. Myth 1. My house is my biggest asset. Truth. A house is a liability unless it generates income. Until it produces cash flow, it takes money from you every month. Myth 2. A new car is an investment. Truth. Cars depreciate. They lose value. Unless you're running a business that earns from the vehicle, it's a liability. Myth 3. My job is my greatest security. Truth. A job is not an asset you own. It belongs to your employer. The paycheck ends the moment they decide. True security comes from assets that continue producing whether you show up or not. These illusions aren't harmless. They shape decades of financial choices, often trapping people in cycles of debt and dependence. How assets work. So, what qualifies as an asset? Here are some examples. Rental real estate. Property that brings in more in rent than it costs in expenses. Investments. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or index funds that generate dividends or grow in value. Businesses. Enterprises you own that produce profit independent of your daily labor. Intellectual property. Books, courses, patents, or creative works that generate royalties or licensing income. Assets may require effort upfront, but once established, they feed you over and over again. They are seeds that grow into trees, shading you long after the planting. How liabilities trap you. On the flip side, liabilities disguise themselves as progress. A bigger house with a bigger mortgage feels like success, but it ties you to higher payments. A luxury car signals status, but it drains resources monthly. Even consumer debt for small luxuries adds weight to your financial shoulders. Liabilities feel good in the short term, but chain you in the long term. They are financial sugar highs, quick satisfaction followed by a crash. The middle class trap. Here's the cycle most people fall into. They earn more money. Instead of buying assets, they buy liabilities, a larger home, a new car, nicer vacations. Their expenses rise to match their income. They stay trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck grind. This is why you often see professionals earning six figures, but still stressed about bills. They look rich, but aren't wealthy. Their lifestyle is built on liabilities. The wealthy break this cycle by flipping the order. Assets first, luxuries later. They let their assets pay for their liabilities. They buy freedom before appearances. Building your asset column. So, how do you start building assets? Track your flow. Write down where your money goes each month. Be brutally honest. Which expenses feed you? Which drain you? Reduce liabilities. Cut back on purchases that don't add value. Delay gratification until your assets can cover it. Invest early. Even small amounts, consistently invested, compound into powerful assets over time. Educate yourself. Read about real estate, investing, entrepreneurship. The more fluent you become, the more opportunities you see. Think long-term. Ask, Will this decision add to my asset column in 5 years or subtract from it? These steps might seem small, but they shift your trajectory. Remember, freedom is not built overnight. It's built decision by decision, brick by brick. A new way to see the world. Once you internalize the asset-liability distinction, you'll never see the world the same way again. You'll notice how advertisements push liabilities disguised as dreams. You'll recognize how cultural norms encourage spending over building. You'll realize how few people actually speak the language of money, and how much opportunity that creates for those who do. It's like learning to read a code that was always there but invisible. Suddenly, you can see the traps and the doors. Closing thoughts. Speaking the language of money doesn't mean chasing every dollar or living in scarcity. It means making choices that align with freedom. It means letting your money work for you instead of against you. Assets feed you, liabilities eat you. Which are you building? Now it's your turn. Take a moment and share in the comments. What's one asset you'd love to start building in your life? Real estate, investments, a side business, maybe even creative work? Let's start a conversation. And if you found this lesson valuable, give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter on cash flow, the true king of wealth. Part 5. Cash flow is king. There's a phrase often repeated in the world of finance. Cash is king. But the truth is more specific than that. It's not just cash that matters, it's cash flow. Cash is static. It can sit in your wallet or in a bank account. Cash flow, however, is dynamic. It's the movement of money in and out of your life, and how you manage that flow determines whether you're free, comfortable, or forever stressed. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't simply ask, "How much money do I have?" They ask, "What does my cash flow look like?" Because cash can be spent once, but cash flow, when designed properly, can feed you forever. What cash flow really means. Cash flow is the stream of income that continues to flow whether you're actively working or not. Positive cash flow means more money is coming in than going out. Negative cash flow means the opposite. Your expenses are draining more than your income provides. Think of it like a river. A strong, steady river can sustain life along its banks. A weak or inconsistent stream dries up when you need it most. Your financial life depends on the strength and direction of your cash flow. The difference between income and cash flow. Most people confuse income with cash flow. They believe that because they earn a good salary, they are financially secure. But income is not the same as cash flow. Here's why. Income is what you earn. Cash flow is what remains after your expenses. Someone earning $150,000 a year but spending $155,000 is worse off than someone earning $60,000 and living on $40,000. The first is drowning in debt. The second is building freedom. The wealthy don't measure success by income alone. They measure it by how much free cash flow they can create, money that is left over and reinvested into assets. Why cash flow is king. Cash flow is king because it represents control. With healthy cash flow, you can seize opportunities, invest, and grow. With poor cash flow, even high income becomes meaningless. With negative cash flow, debt and desperation take over. It's not about how much you make, but how much you keep, and how much you put to work for you. This is why lotteries ruin people. A sudden windfall of cash without a system of cash flow quickly disappears. The money is spent, but no assets were created. Without ongoing inflows, they end up broke again. Meanwhile, someone with modest resources but strong cash flow can build wealth steadily, quietly, and permanently. Assets versus liabilities in cash flow terms. In the last chapter, we distinguished assets from liabilities. Cash flow is where that distinction becomes practical. Assets create positive cash flow. They feed your income streams. Liabilities create negative cash flow. They drain your pockets. A rental property that earns $500 a month after expenses? Positive cash flow. A new car with a $600 monthly payment? Negative cash flow. This is why the wealthy obsess over cash flow statements. Simple tools that track what's coming in and what's going out. They know that the secret to financial independence is not the number on a paycheck, but the balance between inflows and outflows. The freedom threshold. One of the most empowering concepts in personal finance is the freedom threshold. The point where your passive income, cash flow from assets, covers your monthly expenses. At this moment, you are financially free. You may still choose to work, but you no longer have to. Your assets provide for your needs. Your time belongs to you. The amount varies for everyone. For some, it may be $3,000 a month. For others, $10,000. The number isn't what matters. What matters is designing your cash flow so it crosses that threshold. Building strong cash flow. How do you strengthen your cash flow? Here are some steps. Audit your expenses. Know exactly where your money is going. Awareness is the first step toward control. Cut liabilities. Eliminate unnecessary drains. Every dollar you stop bleeding is a dollar that strengthens cash flow. Increase income streams. Don't rely on one paycheck. Explore side hustles, businesses, or investments. Invest in cash-flowing assets. Real estate, dividend stocks, or small businesses can all generate monthly inflows. Reinvest. Use surplus cash flow to build more assets, creating a snowball effect. This process might feel slow at first, but it compounds. Like water filling a reservoir, eventually the flow is unstoppable. The danger of ignoring cash flow. When people ignore cash flow, they fall into the trap of looking rich but being broke. They drive luxury cars, wear expensive clothes, and live in big homes. But behind the scenes, their outflow exceeds their inflow. They are trapped by appearances, enslaved by debt, and constantly anxious. The wealthy understand that true luxury is freedom, not possessions. They build cash flow first, then let cash flow pay for luxuries later. That way, the lifestyle doesn't cost them freedom. Case study: Lisa's transformation. Lisa was a nurse earning a stable salary. For years, she felt stuck, living paycheck to paycheck despite making good money. Her turning point came when she tracked her cash flow for the first time. She discovered she was spending nearly $700 a month on subscriptions, dining out, and impulse shopping. With simple adjustments, she freed up that $700. Instead of spending it, she invested in a small rental property that brought in $350 a month. Within 2 years, she repeated the process, now generating $900 a month in positive cash flow. Combined with her savings, she reached her freedom threshold, covering her basic expenses through assets. Lisa didn't win the lottery. She didn't start a $1 million business. She learned the language of cash flow and let it set her free. Closing thoughts. Cash flow is king because it determines the rhythm of your financial life. Money in motion creates possibilities. Money leaking away creates chains. If you focus only on income, you may look successful while living in quiet desperation. If you master cash flow, you may look ordinary, but live extraordinarily free. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever tracked your own cash flow? Not just income, but what's left after expenses. If not, make this week the first time you do it. And let me know in the comments what surprised you most about where your money goes. If this lesson clicked for you, hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter, where we'll dive into why you must mind your own business to build true wealth. Part 6. Mind your own business. There's a subtle but powerful truth that separates the wealthy from the rest. They focus on building their own business, not just working for someone else's. Now, let's clear something up right away. Mind your own business, in this context, isn't about ignoring others or being selfish. It's about taking responsibility for your financial life. It means building assets that belong to you, a financial foundation no employer can take away. Too many people confuse their job with their business. But your job is not your business. Your employer owns that business. They set the rules. They decide your pay. they can end it at any moment. If your only plan is to climb someone else's ladder, you'll spend your life strengthening their foundation while neglecting your own. The wealthy understand this distinction. While they may work jobs at times, they never forget to keep building their personal business on the side. Their asset column. Why jobs alone are not enough. A job can provide income, stability, and skills, but it can never provide independence. Why? Because jobs exchange time for money, and as we discussed earlier, time is limited. Jobs also come with ceilings. Promotions are controlled by others. Raises depend on performance reviews, budgets, or politics. Even the hardest working employee can find themselves capped. Meanwhile, expenses never stop rising. Inflation, taxes, and lifestyle costs keep pressing upward. If your only plan is a paycheck, you're always playing defense. That's why the wealthy never confuse a paycheck with a plan. They see jobs as tools, not destinations. Building the asset column. So, what does it mean to mind your own business? It means focusing relentlessly on building your asset column, the part of your financial life that generates income independent of your job. Examples include rental properties producing monthly income, stocks or dividends that grow over time, small businesses or side hustles that generate cash flow, intellectual property like books, courses, or apps. The wealthy view every dollar earned from a job as raw material. Instead of spending it on liabilities, they redirect it into assets. Over time, their personal business becomes so strong that it outgrows their job. The trap of lifestyle inflation. One of the biggest obstacles to building assets is lifestyle inflation. Here's how it happens. You get a raise. Instead of investing the difference, you buy a nicer car, move into a bigger house, or take fancier vacations. Suddenly, your expenses rise to match your income. You look successful, but your asset column is still empty. This is how professionals making six figures can still be broke. They've mistaken consumption for progress. They've strengthened the image of wealth while weakening its foundation. The wealthy resist this trap. They let assets pay for luxuries. They live below their means long enough to invest the difference, and eventually their asset column buys the freedom to enjoy those luxuries without stress. A story of two engineers. Consider Mark and Daniel, two engineers at the same company. Mark spends his weekends test driving cars and shopping for the latest gadgets. Each bonus goes to a new liability: a bigger house, a faster car, a fancier lifestyle. On paper, he looks impressive. In reality, his paycheck is stretched thin. Daniel, meanwhile, takes a different approach. He still enjoys life, but each raise or bonus gets funneled into his business: rental properties, index funds, and a small e-commerce store. For years, his lifestyle looks modest compared to Mark's, but slowly, his asset column grows. A decade later, Mark is still working long hours to maintain appearances. Daniel, however, has built enough cash flow to cover his expenses. He keeps working, but now it's by choice, not necessity. The difference? Daniel minded his own business. Mark minded someone else's. How to start minding your own business. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow to begin. In fact, your job can be the seed capital for your future business. The key is to shift perspective. Define your business. Ask yourself, what kind of assets do I want to build? Real estate? Investments? A side project? Track your flows. Create a personal cash flow statement. Are your dollars flowing into assets or liabilities? Pay yourself first. Before spending on expenses, allocate money toward building assets. Treat your future like the most important bill you owe. Invest in knowledge. Learn the skills you'll need for your chosen assets. Read, study, experiment. Stay patient. Asset building takes time. Resist the urge to inflate your lifestyle before your assets can pay for it. This process may feel slow at first, but it compounds. The earlier you start, the sooner your business overtakes your job. The courage to be different. Minding your own business requires courage, because most of the world is busy minding someone else's. They'll tell you that working harder at your job is enough. They'll pressure you to buy liabilities in the name of success. And they'll mock your modest choices while praising flashy lifestyles. But remember, you're not building for applause today. You're building for freedom tomorrow. The wealthy don't measure success by how it looks. They measure it by whether their assets feed them. Stay focused on your business, and one day, those who laughed will ask for advice. Closing thoughts. Minding your own business is about reclaiming your financial power. Your employer may sign your paycheck, but you sign your freedom. By steadily building your asset column, you create a business that belongs only to you. Jobs can vanish. Titles can change. But your assets, if cared for, will continue to serve you long after the job ends. Now I'd love to hear your perspective. Do you already have a personal business? An asset you're building outside your job? If so, share it in the comments. Your journey might inspire someone else to start theirs today. And if this message resonates with you, like this video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapter, where we'll explore the history of taxes and the hidden power of corporations. Part 7. The hidden power of taxes and corporations. If money is a game, then taxes are one of its most important rules. Unfortunately, most people don't even know the rules exist. They work hard, collect their paycheck, and watch a big slice disappear before the money ever reaches their account. Meanwhile, the wealthy seem to play by a different set of rules. Their money flows through structures, corporations, trusts, and investments that shield it, multiply it, and reduce their tax burden legally. To the average person, this feels unfair, almost like cheating. But here's the truth. It's not cheating. It's knowledge. The wealthy don't resent taxes. They study them. They learn the system, adapt to it, and use it to their advantage. The result is a financial world where employees pay the highest tax rates, while business owners and investors often pay far less. The employee's burden. Let's start with the average worker. Employees pay taxes on their income before they see it. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. By the time the check arrives, a large portion is gone. This means employees are taxed on their gross income. If you earn $70,000 a year, perhaps only $50,000 makes it into your pocket after taxes. And from that remainder, you must still pay for rent, food, insurance, and all other expenses. This system feels normal because it's all most people know. But compared to how corporations are taxed, it's a disadvantage from the start. The corporate advantage corporations play by different rules. While employees earn, get taxed, and then spend what's left, corporations earn, spend, and then get taxed on the remainder. Think about that. A corporation can deduct legitimate business expenses, travel, equipment, healthcare, education, even vehicles, before calculating taxable income. The result is that corporations often keep far more of their money in motion, while employees lose a large slice before they even begin. This is why the wealthy love corporations. They're not just structures for big businesses. They're tools for financial efficiency. With the right setup, even small entrepreneurs can benefit. Taxes as incentives. Another key insight. Tax codes are not written simply to collect money. They are also written to incentivize behavior. Governments want certain activities to happen: housing, energy, agriculture, job creation. So they reward those who provide them with tax benefits. Build affordable housing, tax credits. Invest in renewable energy, tax incentives. Create jobs, payroll deductions. The wealthy pay attention to these signals. They align their money with government incentives. Instead of fighting the system, they partner with it. Employees, on the other hand, often remain unaware. They see taxes as punishment instead of guidance. Why financial education matters. This doesn't mean you need to become a tax attorney or CPA, but it does mean you must understand the basics. Employees are taxed highest. Small businesses have advantages. Corporations have the greatest flexibility. Investors often pay the least, especially when their gains are long-term or structured properly. Without financial education, you're stuck in the employee category, carrying the heaviest burden. With education, you can restructure your financial life so you play the game differently. The fear of corporations. For many, the idea of forming a corporation feels intimidating. They imagine skyscrapers, boardrooms, and endless paperwork. But in reality, creating a corporation or LLC can be simple and affordable. In many states, it costs only a few $100s. The point isn't to complicate your life. It's to give you a structure that protects your income, shields your assets, and reduces your taxes. Even small side hustles can benefit. When you realize that the wealthy use corporations not just to make money, but to keep money, you begin to see why financial literacy is so crucial. A tale of two incomes. Let's compare two friends, John and Maria. John works as an employee earning $90,000 a year. After taxes, he takes home around $65,000. From that, he pays for everything: mortgage, car, food, healthcare. By year's end, there's little left. Maria earns the same $90,000, but she runs her consulting business through an LLC. She deducts business-related expenses: travel, office equipment, internet, even part of her home as an office. Her taxable income drops significantly. She still contributes to society, but she keeps more money in motion. That extra capital goes into investments, which generate even more income. Both earn the same. One kept far more. The wealthy mindset about taxes. The wealthy don't see taxes as something to fear or resent. They see them as signals, guiding them toward where to put their money. If governments want renewable energy, the wealthy invest in solar. If they want housing, the wealthy build apartments. By aligning with incentives, the wealthy pay less in taxes and create value for society. This is not exploitation, it's education. The rules exist. The wealthy simply read the rulebook while others ignore it. Practical steps to start. You don't need to be a millionaire to benefit. Here are simple steps to consider. Learn the basics. Read about taxes in your country or state. Knowledge is power. Consider a business structure. Even a side hustle can benefit from an LLC or small corporation. Track expenses. Many things you already pay for could qualify as deductions if tied to a business. Seek professional help. A good accountant can save you far more than their fee. Shift perspective. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid taxes?" ask, "What behaviors does the system reward, and how can I align with them?" Closing thoughts. Taxes in corporations may not sound glamorous, but they are game changers. They determine who keeps wealth and who loses it. The average person works for money, pays heavy taxes, and spends what's left. The wealthy build structures that let money flow differently, legally, efficiently, and strategically. If you want financial freedom, you can't ignore this lesson. The game has rules. Learn them, and you can play to win. Now let me ask you, have you ever thought about setting up your own business or corporation, even for a side hustle? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this chapter gave you a new perspective on taxes and money, hit the like button and subscribe so you won't miss the next lesson, where we'll uncover how the rich actually invent money instead of waiting for it. Part 8. Money is a skill you can learn. Most people believe money is about luck, talent, or privilege. They think the wealthy were either born into it, stumbled onto a big break, or possess some genius gene that the rest of us don't. This belief is not only false, it's dangerous. The truth is simpler and far more empowering. Money is a skill. Like riding a bike, learning to play an instrument, or speaking a language. It can be practiced, developed, and mastered. This realization changes everything. Because if money is a skill, then anyone can learn it. You may not become a billionaire overnight, but you can absolutely become financially free. If you're willing to treat money as something you can study, practice, and improve at over time. The myth of natural talent. We admire stories of the self-made millionaire or the brilliant entrepreneur who struck gold with a big idea. But what we often overlook are the years of learning, failing, and adjusting that came before their breakthrough. No one is born knowing how to invest, manage cash flow, or build businesses. Even the wealthy who inherit fortunes must learn how to preserve and grow them. Without skill, inherited money vanishes quickly, which is why so many lottery winners and heirs lose their wealth within a decade. Skill sustains wealth. Lack of skill destroys it. Thinking of money as a language. A useful way to see money is as a language. At first it feels foreign. You hear words like capital gains, dividends, or equity, and it all sounds confusing. But just like with any language, immersion and practice bring fluency. The more you read financial statements, listen to discussions, or experiment with small investments, the more comfortable you become. Over time, what once felt intimidating becomes second nature. The wealthy aren't necessarily smarter, they're just fluent. Practice makes profit. Every skill improves with practice, and money is no exception. The first time you budget, it feels clumsy. The first time you invest, you're nervous. The first time you start a side business, mistakes are inevitable. But each attempt teaches. Each failure builds resilience. Each success compounds. The wealthy don't fear failure because they understand it as practice. Every deal gone wrong, every investment that flops, every setback is simply a lesson. And those lessons, stacked over years, create mastery. Small wins build confidence. One of the best ways to treat money as a skill is to start small. Buy one share of stock and learn how dividends work. Set aside a little cash each month to practice budgeting. Launch a tiny online business, even if it earns just a few dollars. Each small win builds confidence. Each new step expands your comfort zone. Over time, the accumulation of small wins becomes a mountain of competence. Think of it like learning to cook. You don't start with a 5-course meal. You start with scrambled eggs. Master that, then move on. Money works the same way. The same. The role of mentorship. Every skill improves faster with guidance, and money is no different. The wealthy often seek mentors, advisors, or networks where they can learn from others' experiences. If you want to improve your financial skill, surround yourself with people who are ahead of you. Read their books. Listen to their stories. Ask questions. Observe how they think about money, because mindset is as important as mechanics. Wealth is contagious when you're exposed to it in the right way. From scarcity to skill. Many people never improve their financial skills because they are stuck in a scarcity mindset. They believe, I'm just not good with money. I'll never understand investing. That's only for rich people. But imagine if a child said, I'm just not good at reading. Would we accept that as permanent? Of course not. We teach, practice, and encourage. Money works the same way. If you're not good at it now, it only means you haven't practiced enough yet. The moment you stop labeling yourself and start treating money as a skill, growth begins. Why schools don't teach. This one reason this lesson is rare is because traditional schools don't treat money as a skill. They treat it as a subject to be ignored. We graduate knowing how to write essays, but not how to write checks. We solve equations, but can't solve compound interest. The result? Adults fumbling through financial life, learning by painful trial and error. But now you know better. You don't need permission to start learning. You can treat your financial life as your classroom, with every paycheck, bill, or investment as part of the curriculum. Exercises to strengthen your money skill. Here are a few simple practices to sharpen your skill starting today. Track your spending. Write down every expense for 30 days. Awareness is the first lesson. Read financial basics. Pick up a beginner's book on investing or cash flow. Highlight terms you don't know and look them up. Simulate investing. Use apps that let you paper trade stocks to practice without risk. Start real, but small. Buy a low-cost index fund with $100. The point isn't the amount, it's the practice. Reflect monthly. Ask, what did I learn about money this month? Turn life into a classroom. Like learning an instrument, consistency matters more than intensity. 10 minutes a day compounds into fluency. Closing thoughts. Money is not magic. It's not destiny. It's a skill. And like all skills, it rewards the curious, the consistent, and the courageous. The wealthy aren't born with secret abilities. They learned, practiced, failed, and grew. You can too. The moment you see money as a skill, you reclaim power, because skills can be learned, and once learned, they cannot be taken away. Now let me turn it over to you. What's one small money skill you'd like to practice this month? Budgeting, investing, or maybe starting a tiny side hustle? Share your answer in the comments below. And if you find these lessons valuable, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can keep sharpening your money skills with us in the next chapter. Part 9. Work to learn, not just to earn. When most people think about work, they think about paychecks. They ask, how much does it pay? Or, what's the salary? It's natural. After all, bills don't pay themselves. But focusing only on earning misses the deeper opportunity that work provides. The wealthy view work differently. They see every job, every project, and every business venture not just as a source of income, but as a classroom. They don't just work to earn, they work to learn. And the lessons they gather are often worth far more than the paycheck itself. Why skills beat salaries? Consider two people starting out in their careers. Person A chooses the highest paying job available, even if it offers little growth. They prioritize money in the short term. Person B chooses a job that pays modestly but offers exposure to valuable skills: sales, investing, leadership, or entrepreneurship. 10 years later, Person A may still be stuck earning slightly more than before, relying on annual raises. Person B, however, now possesses skills that can generate unlimited opportunities. They can start businesses, negotiate deals, and invest with confidence. The lesson is clear. Salaries feed you today, but skills feed you for life. The hidden curriculum of work. Every job teaches lessons, but only if you pay attention. A restaurant job teaches customer service, time management, and teamwork. A sales role teaches communication, persuasion, and resilience. A small startup teaches adaptability, creativity, and problem solving. The paycheck may be small, but the hidden curriculum is priceless. Many of the world's wealthiest entrepreneurs credit their early, humble jobs for teaching them the mindset and skills that later built empires. Mistaking stability for growth. One of the traps people fall into is mistaking stability for growth. They cling to safe jobs, where the tasks are predictable and the risks are low. But predictable tasks rarely teach new skills. Over time, comfort becomes a cage. Growth requires discomfort. It requires placing yourself in environments where you don't know everything, where you must stretch, adapt, and learn. The wealthy seek these environments intentionally. They understand that every skill they acquire multiplies their opportunities exponentially. The wealthy and sales. If there's one skill that illustrates this principle best, it's sales. Most people avoid sales because it feels uncomfortable. Rejection hurts. Cold calls are intimidating. But the wealthy know that sales is not just about selling products. It's about learning to communicate, persuade, and create value. Think about it. Entrepreneurs sell ideas to investors. Leaders sell visions to teams. Even in personal life, you sell yourself in relationships, negotiations, and opportunities. Mastering sales isn't about manipulation. It's about confidence, clarity, and connection. That's why so many wealthy individuals spent time in sales early on. They didn't do it for the commission. They did it for the skill. Learning versus earning. A story. Take Alex, for example. After college, he had two offers. A corporate job paying $65,000 a year with predictable hours. A sales job paying only $35,000 base, but with potential commissions and training in negotiation and marketing. Most of his friends thought he was crazy, but Alex chose the sales job. The first year was tough. Rejections piled up, income was inconsistent, and he doubted himself constantly. But he stayed, and he learned. By year 3, Alex had mastered communication and persuasion. He was earning 6 figures in commissions. More importantly, he had built the confidence and skill set to launch his own consulting firm. 10 years later, he wasn't just making money, he owned his time. If Alex had chosen the higher salary, he might have been comfortable. Instead, he chose growth, and growth made him free. Ask different questions. If you want to shift from working to earn toward working to learn, you must ask different questions. Instead of, how much does it pay? Ask, what skills will I develop here? Who will I meet that can expand my network? What opportunities could this open later? Paychecks fade, skills compound, networks multiply. Always measure opportunities not just in dollars, but in lessons. The role of curiosity. Treat every job like an apprenticeship. Even if you dislike the work, ask, what can I learn here that will help me later? A difficult boss can teach patience and leadership. A boring task can teach discipline. A chaotic workplace can teach problem-solving under pressure. Curiosity turns even mundane jobs into classrooms. The wealthy are relentlessly curious. They approach work with the mindset of students, always asking what lessons can be extracted. That curiosity compounds into mastery. Practical steps to work for learning. Here are ways to shift your approach. Identify gaps. Ask yourself, what skills would make me more valuable in the marketplace? Focus on building those. Take stretch assignments. Volunteer for projects that push you outside your comfort zone. Growth rarely comes from routine. Rotate roles. Expose yourself to different areas. Finance, marketing, operations. The broader your experience, the sharper your perspective. Seek mentors. Work for people who challenge and inspire you. Their guidance can accelerate your growth tenfold. Reframe setbacks. See every failure as tuition. Mistakes are part of the learning curve. Closing thoughts. If your only focus is earning, you'll forever be capped by your paycheck. But if your focus is learning, your potential becomes limitless. Every skill you master multiplies your opportunities. Every lesson you internalize moves you closer to freedom. The wealthy don't just work harder, they work smarter. They choose jobs, projects, and ventures not for the immediate income, but for the long-term education. That's the real secret. So don't just ask, how much will I make? Ask, how much will I learn? Because skills stay with you long after the paycheck is gone. Now let me ask you, what's the most valuable skill you've ever learned from a job? Even one you didn't like? Share your answer in the comments. And if this chapter gave you a new way to think about work, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you won't miss the next lesson on overcoming the obstacles that stand between you and financial freedom. Part 10. The enemies of wealth: fear, doubt, and laziness. If building wealth were only about math, everyone would be rich. The formulas are simple. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, repeat. Yet so few achieve financial freedom. Why? Because the greatest barriers are not outside of us, but inside. 3 invisible enemies sabotage more dreams than lack of money ever could: fear, doubt, and laziness. These forces quietly shape decisions, whisper excuses, and paralyze action. To win with money, you must first defeat them. Enemy number 1. Fear. Fear is the loudest enemy. It shouts warnings in your mind. What if I lose everything? What if people laugh at me? What if I fail? Fear keeps millions trapped in jobs they dislike, afraid to take risks or try something new. It freezes them in place while opportunities pass by. But here's the truth. Failure is not fatal. It's feedback. Every successful investor, entrepreneur, or wealth builder has failed countless times. The difference is, they didn't let fear stop them. They used failure as information, as a lesson to refine their approach. The wealthy aren't fearless. They simply act in spite of fear. Pause here and reflect. What financial step have you avoided because of fear? Starting a business? Investing? Asking for a raise? Acknowledging it is the first step to overcoming it. Enemy number 2. Doubt. Where fear screams, doubt whispers. It sounds like reason, but it's poison in disguise. I'm not smart enough to handle investing. I don't have the right background to succeed. People like me never get ahead. Doubt is powerful because it disguises itself as truth. It convinces you to shrink your dreams before you even try. And sadly, most people surrender without a fight. But doubt loses its grip the moment you take small, consistent action. Each step forward, opening a savings account, reading a financial book, making your first investment, builds confidence. Progress proves doubt wrong. The wealthy don't have fewer doubts. They just don't obey them. Enemy number 3. Laziness. The subtlest enemy is laziness. It doesn't shout or whisper. It lulls. Laziness says, I'll do it tomorrow. It says, this show is easier than studying. It says, life's too short. Enjoy now, plan later. And slowly, days turn into years, and years into decades. Dreams slip away not with a bang, but with a yawn. Wealth requires effort. Reading, studying, budgeting, investing. These demand energy. The wealthy combat laziness by building habits. They schedule learning time, automate investments, and surround themselves with people who keep them accountable. Laziness dies when discipline takes over. The cycle of self-sabotage. Fear, doubt, and laziness often work together. Fear says, don't invest, you might lose. Doubt adds, besides, you're not smart enough to pick good investments. Laziness concludes, so why bother? Let's just relax instead. The result? Inaction. And inaction guarantees stagnation. But when you break the cycle, by taking even one small step forward, the enemies weaken. Action silences fear. Progress shatters doubt. Discipline kills laziness, turning enemies into fuel. Interestingly, these enemies can be transformed into allies if approached correctly. Fear can sharpen awareness. It reminds you to research carefully, prepare for risks, and stay humble. Doubt can push you to learn more, to improve your knowledge and sharpen your skills. Laziness can motivate you to design systems and shortcuts that keep you consistent even when you don't feel like it. The wealthy don't pretend these enemies don't exist. They acknowledge them, then channel their energy into growth. A personal example. Consider Maria, a teacher who dreamed of starting an online tutoring business. At first, fear held her back. What if no one signs up? Then doubt crept in. I don't know enough about marketing. And when the school year ended, laziness whispered, you deserve a break. Do it later. But Maria decided to take one small step. She created a single online profile offering her tutoring. Within a week, she had her first student. The fear eased. She learned basic marketing through free videos, quieting her doubt. And she built a routine to dedicate 1 hour a day to her business, defeating laziness. Today, Maria not only supplements her income, she's building a pathway to financial independence. Her enemies didn't disappear. She simply refused to let them win. Practical strategies to defeat the enemies. Name your fear. Write it down. When fears are vague, they control you. When named, they shrink. Challenge your doubt. Replace self-limiting thoughts with, what small step can I try to prove this wrong? Beat laziness with structure. Automate savings. Set reminders. Create routines that move you forward even when motivation fades. Seek accountability. Share your goals with a trusted friend, mentor, or community. Support keeps enemies at bay. Celebrate progress. Even small wins matter. Acknowledge them. They are proof you are stronger than your excuses. Closing thoughts. The path to wealth isn't blocked by Wall Street, bad bosses, or lack of luck. It's blocked by the invisible forces inside us: fear, doubt, and laziness. These enemies are powerful, but they are not invincible. The wealthy succeed not because they never feel afraid, uncertain, or tired, but because they act anyway. They build courage through action, confidence through progress, and discipline through consistency. Your financial freedom begins the moment you decide your enemies won't define your future. Now, let me ask you, Which of these three enemies, fear, doubt, or laziness, has held you back the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, because chances are you're not alone. And if this chapter gave you a boost of courage, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can join us for the next lesson. How to harness the power of risk and make it work in your favor. Part 11. Harnessing the power of risk. Most people spend their lives avoiding risk. They want safety, stability, and guarantees. They seek jobs with security, investments that can't lose, and routines that never change. At first, this seems wise, but ironically, avoiding risk often leads to the greatest risk of all, a life of limitation, dependency, and regret. The wealthy know something different. They understand that risk is not the enemy. Risk is the price of opportunity. Without it, there is no reward. The goal, then, is not to eliminate risk, but to harness it, to manage it, and to let it work in your favor. The illusion of safety. Ask yourself, is a steady paycheck really safe? Many believe it is, yet history proves otherwise. Companies close, industries collapse, layoffs happen, and inflation erodes salaries. The so-called safe path often hides enormous risk. On the other hand, people who take calculated risks, starting businesses, buying investments, acquiring new skills, may stumble at first, but over time, they gain control. They're not dependent on a single paycheck. They build multiple streams of income. They embrace the truth. Safety is not found in avoiding risk, but in learning to master it. Good risk versus bad risk. Not all risks are equal. Bad risks are reckless. Gambling your savings in a casino, blindly following stock tips, or starting a business without research. These are risks based on luck, not logic. Good risks are calculated. Investing after study, starting a side business with limited downside, or taking a loan that will increase your long-term income. The wealthy avoid reckless risks, but lean into calculated ones. They understand that wealth grows not by chance, but by intelligent risk-taking. Pause here and reflect. Are you avoiding all risks, or are you learning to separate smart risks from foolish ones? The role of courage. Courage doesn't mean you feel no fear. It means you act despite fear. Every wealthy person you admire took risks that scared them, quitting a job, investing in an uncertain market, or putting their reputation on the line. Courage is built like a muscle. The more you face small risks, the stronger you become. Each calculated leap expands your comfort zone. Eventually, what once terrified you becomes routine. Why risk feels so hard. Humans are wired to avoid risk. Thousands of years ago, this was useful. Avoiding danger kept us alive. But in modern times, our brains treat financial risk as if it were physical danger. That's why investing in a stock feels scarier than staying in a job, even though the long-term danger of stagnation is far greater. To build wealth, you must learn to override this instinct. Recognize that discomfort is often a sign of growth. If your choices feel too comfortable, you may not be taking enough intelligent risks. Risk and the wealthy mindset. Wealthy people see risk differently. Instead of asking, "What if I lose?" they ask, "What if I win?" Instead of focusing on the downside, they calculate the upside and take action when the reward justifies the risk. For example, a poor mindset sees investing $1,000 as a loss waiting to happen. A wealthy mindset sees it as the seed of future growth. This shift in perspective changes everything. Risk stops being something to fear and starts being something to manage. Managing risk wisely. Harnessing risk doesn't mean acting blindly. It means creating strategies that protect you while allowing room for reward. Here are a few ways the wealthy manage risk. Education first. They study before acting. Knowledge reduces uncertainty. Start small. They test with small amounts before committing larger sums. Diversify. They don't put everything in one basket. Multiple streams balance each other. Plan the downside. They ask, If this fails, can I recover? If the answer is yes, they proceed, take repeated shots. Repeated. They understand not every risk pays off, but over time, persistence wins. Wealth is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about taking enough educated risks that the wins outweigh the losses. Stories of calculated risk. Consider Elon Musk. He risked his fortune on Tesla and SpaceX, facing possible bankruptcy. Most saw it as reckless, but his risk was calculated. He had deep knowledge, vision, and the resilience to adapt. The reward? Industry-changing companies. Or think smaller. John, a school teacher, invested part of his income into rental properties instead of buying luxury cars. His friends thought he was risking too much. Today, those properties pay him more than his teaching job. His risk created freedom. Both stories prove the same principle. Wealth rewards those who dare intelligently. The risk of doing nothing. Many fear taking risks, yet forget that inaction is the greatest risk of all. Avoid investing? You risk inflation eroding your money. Avoid starting a business? You risk staying dependent on one paycheck. Avoid learning? You risk becoming outdated in a changing economy. By doing nothing, you guarantee a future of limitation. By taking educated risks, you open the door to freedom. Exercises to harness risk. List your fears. What financial moves scare you? Write them down. Break one down. Research the risk. Learn what would minimize loss. Take a small step. If investing scares you, start with $100. If business scares you, test a tiny idea. Reflect. After each step, ask, what did I learn? What grew easier? Repeat. Each repetition builds your risk muscle stronger. Closing thoughts. Risk is not something to hide from. It's the key to wealth, growth, and freedom. Avoiding it keeps you stuck. Embracing it, wisely, with courage and strategy, propels you forward. The wealthy are not reckless gamblers. They are masters of risk. They understand that every fortune began with a decision to step into the unknown. The question is, will you let fear of risk keep you where you are, or will you harness it to build the life you desire? Now it's your turn. What's one risk you've been putting off? Investing, starting a side hustle, or learning a new skill? Share it in the comments, because declaring it is the first step to facing it. And if this lesson inspired you, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. How to build assets that work for you while you sleep. Part 12. Building assets that work for you. Money never sleeps. It flows constantly, either toward you or away from you. The wealthy understand this truth. They don't just work for money, they build assets that work for them, day and night. Assets are the foundation of financial freedom, the bricks that build your independence. Without them, your labor will always be your only source of income. With them, you create a system where money serves you, not the other way around. What exactly is an asset? An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. Simple as that. It generates income, appreciates in value, or both. Assets are not just things you own. They are tools that pay you. Examples of assets include rental properties that generate monthly income, stocks that pay dividends, businesses that operate without your constant presence, intellectual property such as books, courses, or patents, even digital platforms that earn while you sleep. The opposite of assets are liabilities, things that take money out of your pocket. Your car loan, your credit card debt, and even your oversized house can drain your resources instead of growing them. Pause here and think. Are you spending your life buying assets or piling up liabilities disguised as assets? The illusion of ownership. Many people believe their house is their biggest asset. But unless that house is producing rental income, it's more of a liability. It takes money each month for mortgage, taxes, repairs, and insurance. The wealthy view their personal home not as an asset, but as an expense. Their true assets are investments that generate income. This doesn't mean you shouldn't own a home. It means you must recognize the difference between something that looks impressive on paper and something that builds wealth in reality. The asset mindset. The first shift is mental. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn from my job?" the wealthy ask, "How many assets can I acquire that will earn for me?" Every dollar they receive is a potential seed for a future asset. Instead of spending windfalls on luxury, they direct that money into vehicles that multiply. Over time, those assets create streams of income that free them from reliance on a paycheck. The power of cash flow assets. Assets that produce cash flow are particularly powerful. They don't just increase in value over time, they put money in your pocket consistently. Imagine owning 3 rental units, each paying you $500 per month after expenses. That's $1,500 monthly, regardless of whether you show up to work. Multiply that by years, and you begin to see the power of cash flow. Cash flow assets buy you time, and time is the ultimate currency. Compounding wealth through assets. Assets don't just create income, they compound wealth. The income from one asset can be reinvested into another. Over years, this snowball effect accelerates. What begins as one rental unit or a small stock portfolio can grow into a network of income streams that support you for life. Albert Einstein once called compounding the 8th wonder of the world. Assets are how you harness that wonder in your financial life. Examples of everyday assets. You don't need millions to start building assets. Here are practical ways to begin. Dividend-paying stocks. Even small amounts reinvested can grow into significant wealth. A side business. Something scalable that eventually runs with minimal oversight. Digital assets. Online courses, ebooks, or YouTube channels that continue to pay you. Real estate partnerships. Small contributions into larger deals through syndications or REITs. Skills and intellectual property. A skill that can be monetized repeatedly, like coding an app, is an asset. Barriers to building assets. So why don't more people build assets? Impatience. Assets take time to grow. People want instant gratification. Fear. Many believe assets are risky, not realizing that avoiding them is riskier. Ignorance. Schools rarely teach financial literacy. Without guidance, people default to liabilities. Comfort. A paycheck feels easier than building something that requires effort and vision. To overcome these barriers, you must commit to long-term thinking. Wealth is not built in a weekend. It's built brick by brick, asset by asset. Building your asset column. The wealthy often talk about their asset column, a mental balance sheet of what works for them. Your goal is to make your asset column heavier every year. Practical steps. Track your finances. List what puts money in and what takes money out. Reduce liabilities. Cut back on debt and unnecessary expenses. Redirect money into assets. Even $100 a month invested wisely compounds over time. Keep learning. Knowledge about markets, real estate, or business opportunities sharpens your asset-building ability. Stay consistent. Wealth grows through discipline, not sudden windfalls. Stories of asset builders. Consider Sarah, who began buying one rental property every 3 years. At first, the extra income was modest. But within 15 years, she owned 5 properties, generating enough cash flow to replace her job income. Or David, who started writing ebooks and posting them online. The first one barely sold. By the 5th, he had a small but steady monthly income. Over time, his side hustle became his main source of wealth. Both Sarah and David understood the principle: build assets patiently, and eventually, they build freedom. The asset versus liability lifestyle. Picture. 2 neighbors. Mark spends his money on a new car, a bigger house, and the latest gadgets. His life looks impressive, but his liabilities drain him. Lisa spends her money acquiring dividend stocks, rental units, and digital properties. Her life looks simpler at first, but over time, her assets grow into independence. Which neighbor would you rather be? Closing thoughts. The path to wealth is not a mystery. It's a discipline. Acquire assets, avoid excessive liabilities, and let time and compounding work their magic. Assets are more than numbers on a spreadsheet. They represent freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your time, freedom to live on your terms, and freedom from dependence on anyone else's paycheck. Remember, every dollar you spend is a soldier. You can send it to fight for you by buying assets, or you can waste it on liabilities that weaken your army. The choice is yours. Will you let money work for you, or will you continue working only for money? Now I'd love to hear from you. What's the very first asset you'd like to build? Real estate? Stocks? A side business? Or maybe a digital project? Share your answer in the comments so we can learn from each other. And if this chapter gave you clarity, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join me in the next part, where we'll explore how to turn small beginnings into unstoppable momentum. Part 13. Creating Momentum. From small steps to big wins. Success in wealth, as in life, is not built on giant leaps, but on steady steps. Momentum is the invisible force that transforms those steps into an unstoppable journey. You may have heard the phrase, "Objects in motion stay in motion." The same applies to your financial journey. Once you begin moving, even with small actions, momentum takes over, making each step easier than the last. In this chapter, we'll explore how momentum works, how to build it in your financial life, and how to maintain it long enough to achieve freedom. Why momentum matters. Momentum matters because willpower alone is unreliable. In the beginning, enthusiasm can carry you. But without momentum, enthusiasm fades, distractions creep in, and old habits return. Momentum, however, creates its own energy. It turns financial progress into a self-reinforcing cycle. Small wins fuel confidence. Confidence fuels bigger actions. Bigger actions produce greater wins. This loop is what carries people beyond the starting line and toward real freedom. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, have you ever started something with excitement, only to stop when the initial energy faded? If so, momentum was the missing piece. The snowball effect picture, a small snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny and requires a push. But as it rolls, it gathers more snow, grows larger, and picks up speed. Eventually, it's massive, unstoppable. Financial growth works the same way. Saving your first $100 may feel insignificant, but over time, those small amounts accumulate, investments compound, and habits solidify. The snowball of your financial life becomes larger and more powerful, pushing itself forward. Small steps that create big wins. What are these small steps that create momentum? Automatic saving. Even $20 a week builds a habit. Reading one financial book a month. Knowledge compounds like money. Investing your first $100. The dollar amount is less important than the habit. Tracking expenses. Awareness itself shifts behavior. Celebrating small wins. Each milestone keeps you motivated. Small steps seem trivial, but they are the foundation of momentum. Don't underestimate them. The psychology of progress. Humans are wired to crave progress. That's why checking items off a list feels good. Momentum builds when your brain experiences progress, no matter how small. Wealthy individuals leverage this psychology. They set goals they can consistently hit. Each success, even minor, creates dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. That positive reinforcement keeps them moving. For example, someone might start with the goal of investing $50 a month. When they succeed, they feel good and naturally increase the goal. Soon, $50 turns into $500. The wins stack. Momentum grows, turning setbacks into fuel. Momentum doesn't mean you'll never stumble. Life will throw setbacks, unexpected bills, job losses, market downturns. The difference lies in how you respond. Those without momentum quit at the first obstacle. Those with momentum treat setbacks as fuel. They ask, what can I learn from this? How can I come back stronger? Each challenge, when framed correctly, becomes part of the forward push. Think of a runner tripping on the track. The fall may hurt, but if they get back up and keep running, they build resilience. In finance, resilience is momentum's ally. The power of consistency. Momentum thrives on consistency. Sporadic bursts of effort don't build lasting results. Daily, weekly, and monthly actions do. Consider a person who goes to the gym once a month. They will see little progress, but someone who goes 3 times a week, even for short sessions, builds momentum. The same applies to finances. Consistent saving, consistent learning, consistent investing. That's the formula. It's better to invest a small amount consistently than a large amount sporadically. Over years, consistency compounds into greatness. Building habits that stick. Momentum relies on habits. Habits automate success. When good actions become automatic, they no longer rely on willpower. Here's how to build wealth habits. Start small. Don't overwhelm yourself with giant changes. Attach new habits to existing routines. For example, review your budget every Sunday night after dinner. Track progress visually. Charts, journals, or apps reinforce your growth. Reward yourself. Celebrate milestones, but wisely. Habits create the rhythm of your financial life. Once established, they carry you forward with little effort. Real stories of momentum. Consider Emma, who began by saving $25 a week. She automated the process so she barely noticed the money leaving her account. After a year, she had over $1,000 saved. Encouraged, she began investing that money. 10 years later, that snowball had grown into tens of thousands, compounding toward her freedom. Or Alex, who decided to learn about real estate by reading 1 book a month. That small habit turned into actionable knowledge. Within 3 years, he bought his first rental property. Momentum carried him forward until he owned multiple units, each generating income. Both stories highlight the same truth. Small steps lead to big wins. How to restart momentum. What if you've lost momentum? Perhaps you tried before but quit. The good news: momentum can always be restarted. Begin with the smallest possible action. Remove guilt about the past. Focus only on the next step, not the entire journey. Surround yourself with people who are moving forward. Momentum doesn't judge your past. It only cares about your next step. Protecting momentum. Once you've built momentum, protect it fiercely. Distractions, unnecessary expenses, or toxic influences can derail your progress. Limit time with people who discourage growth. Avoid financial decisions that drain your energy. Keep your goals visible to remind yourself why you started. Momentum is precious. Guard it like a treasure because it is. Closing thoughts. Momentum is the difference between intention and transformation. Everyone has the intention to be wealthy, but few create the momentum to get there. Remember, it starts small. A single step, a single choice, a single habit. Over time, those small actions compound into unstoppable force. Momentum makes success inevitable. So don't wait for the perfect time or the big break. Start small today. Let your snowball roll. Now it's your turn. What's one small step you can take today to create momentum? Saving a few dollars, learning a new skill, or setting up an automatic transfer? Share your answer in the comments. And if this chapter inspired you, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join me for the next part, where we'll dive into how knowledge becomes power only when you put it into action. Part 14. Turning knowledge into action. Knowledge is power. At least, that's what we're told. But in reality, knowledge is only potential power. It's like a battery sitting unused in a drawer. The charge is there, but until you plug it into something, it does nothing. In the same way, knowledge that is not applied remains dormant. Action is the spark that makes knowledge come alive. This chapter is about the bridge between knowing and doing. Because the truth is simple, wealthy people don't necessarily know more than others. They just act more often on what they know. The illusion of learning. We live in an age of endless information. Books, podcasts, YouTube videos, courses, and seminars are everywhere. It's easy to feel productive while consuming them. But let's be honest, how much of what you've read or listened to have you applied? This is the illusion of learning. Your brain rewards you with a small rush of satisfaction simply for gaining knowledge. But if you don't act on it, that knowledge fades into forgotten notes and unused insights. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you learned something that truly changed your financial behavior? If you struggle to answer, you're not alone. The majority of people confuse learning with progress. Why action feels hard. If knowledge is easy to get, why is action so rare? Because action is uncomfortable. It involves risk, vulnerability, and the possibility of failure. Reading a book on investing is safe. Placing your first $100 into the stock market feels dangerous. Watching a video on real estate is easy. Making an offer on a property is intimidating. Fear of the unknown keeps people frozen. They tell themselves they need to learn just a little more before acting. But this is procrastination in disguise. The courage to begin. Here's the truth. You'll never feel 100% ready. Waiting for certainty means waiting forever. The wealthy understand this. They learn enough to take a calculated first step, then adjust as they go. Think of it like driving a car at night. Your headlights only illuminate a short stretch of road ahead, yet you keep moving forward, trusting that more road will appear. Financial action works the same way. You don't need to see the entire journey to begin. The 24-hour rule. One powerful habit to bridge knowledge and action is the 24-hour rule. Whenever you learn something valuable, commit to taking one action related to it within the next 24 hours. For example, after learning about budgeting, create your first budget draft that same day. After reading about investing, open a brokerage account. After discovering the importance of assets, brainstorm 3 possible income-generating ideas. The action doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to move you from passive learning into active application. Small actions, big transformation. People often believe only big actions create change, but the opposite is true. Small actions compound into transformation. Knowledge. Reading about real estate. Action. Touring one open house this weekend. Knowledge. Understanding the importance of saving. Action. Setting up automatic transfers of $25 per week. Knowledge. Learning about side hustles. Action. Offering one service to one client. Each action is small, but it creates momentum. Small actions are less intimidating, easier to sustain, and build the confidence needed for bigger moves. Learning through doing. The richest form of learning doesn't come from books or lectures. It comes from experience. When you act, you get feedback. That feedback sharpens your knowledge in ways theory never could. Consider 2 people. One reads 10 books on investing but never invests. Another reads 1 book and invests $500. Who will learn more in a year? The second person, without question. Because action turns abstract knowledge into lived wisdom. Embracing mistakes. Fear of mistakes paralyzes many people. Yet mistakes are not the enemy. They're the tuition of success. Every wealthy person has a history of financial missteps. Bad investments, failed businesses, wrong decisions. What separates them is their willingness to act despite the risk, learn from the outcome, and keep going. Think of mistakes as experiments. Each one gives you data. With enough experiments, patterns emerge, skills improve, and wins multiply. Action breeds confidence. Many people believe confidence comes first, then action. In reality, it's the opposite. Action creates confidence. The first time you negotiate a deal, you feel nervous. The second time, slightly less. By the 10th time, you feel in control. Each repetition builds certainty. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a reward for action. Practical ways to turn knowledge into action. Here are a few strategies to ensure you act on what you learn. Take notes with action steps. After consuming information, write down one specific action to take. Set deadlines. Knowledge without a timeline evaporates. Find accountability. Tell a friend your next financial step and ask them to check in. Start messy. Don't wait for perfection. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction. Track progress. Seeing your actions accumulate motivates future action. A story of action. Meet Daniel. He read countless articles about investing but never took the leap. One day, he challenged himself with the 24-hour rule. After reading a guide on index funds, he opened a brokerage account and invested $200. That single action changed everything. He now had real money at play. Suddenly, every article he read felt more relevant. Within 2 years, Daniel was investing thousands regularly. His financial life transformed, not because he knew more than others, but because he acted. The ripple effect of action. Action creates ripples. One small step often unlocks opportunities you couldn't have predicted. Starting a side hustle might connect you with a mentor. Attending a real estate seminar might lead to a business partner. Sharing your financial journey online might open unexpected doors. None of this happens without action. Closing thoughts. Knowledge is abundant. Action is rare. But remember, action is where transformation happens. Don't drown in information. Don't wait until you feel ready. Take what you know now, however incomplete, and apply it. Your financial freedom won't come from what you know, but from what you do with what you know. Now it's your turn. What's one insight you've recently learned that you can take action on today? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your steps. And if this chapter moved you to act, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join me in the next part as we uncover how to build unstoppable momentum from your very first dollar. Part 15. Building momentum. From first dollar to real wealth. Every journey starts with a single step, but wealth is built through sustained momentum. The truth is, financial freedom rarely arrives from one big win. Instead, it's the result of consistent actions that build upon each other, gradually compounding until they create life-changing results. Think of wealth building like pushing a snowball down a hill. At first, it's small and takes effort to get moving, but as it rolls, it gathers more snow, growing larger and heavier. Soon, gravity takes over, and what once felt difficult becomes unstoppable momentum. This chapter is about building that snowball, turning your first dollar into real wealth by sustaining progress over time. The power of compounding. Albert Einstein famously called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. And for good reason. Compounding is the phenomenon where your money earns money, and then that money earns even more money. Over time, the growth curve becomes exponential. But compounding doesn't only apply to money. It applies to habits, skills, and networks. The earlier you start, the greater the effect. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what small financial habit could you start today that, if sustained, would completely transform your life in 10 years? The first dollar matters most. It may not seem like much, but the first dollar is symbolic. It proves that wealth creation is not just an idea, it's real. Whether it's your first saved dollar, your first investment, or your first profit from a side hustle, that moment signals the beginning of a new financial identity. Wealth is not about waiting until you have thousands to invest. It's about beginning with what you have, no matter how small, and letting momentum carry you forward. Momentum over motivation. Many people rely on motivation to act. They wait to feel inspired before saving, investing, or building a business. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like the weather. Momentum, on the other hand, is reliable. Once you take repeated actions, the force of consistency keeps you moving even when motivation fades. The key is to turn actions into habits so that progress happens automatically. For example, automatically transferring $50 each week into investments, setting a monthly calendar reminder to review expenses, dedicating one evening per week to work on your side hustle. These routines create momentum that doesn't depend on emotion. Small wins create big belief. Momentum begins with small wins. Every time you follow through on a financial action, you prove to yourself that change is possible. Your first $100 saved shows you can control your money. Your first $500 invested shows you can grow it. Your first client shows you can create income outside of a paycheck. These wins are like fuel. They build belief, and belief sustains action. Without belief, most people quit too early. Avoiding the stop and start trap. One of the greatest threats to momentum is inconsistency. Many people get excited, make a burst of progress, then stop. Weeks later, they start again, only to stop once more. This cycle wastes energy and prevents compounding. True wealth builders treat financial growth like brushing their teeth. It's not something they do only when they feel like it. It's a non-negotiable routine. The lesson is clear. Consistency beats intensity. A small, steady pace will outlast sporadic bursts of effort. Systems create sustained growth. Momentum thrives on systems. Without systems, you rely on willpower, which is limited. With systems, you build structures that make progress inevitable. Examples of systems include automation, automatic savings and investment contributions, checklists, a weekly review process to track income, spending, and growth, boundaries, rules such as, I never use credit for wants, or I invest before I spend. Systems reduce decision fatigue. When wealth building becomes a system, it stops feeling like a struggle and becomes part of your identity. Leveraging the flywheel effect. In business, Jim Collins coined the term the flywheel effect. Imagine a giant wheel that's heavy and hard to push. At first, each push feels exhausting, but eventually, the wheel starts turning. With each push, it spins faster and requires less effort. Wealth works the same way. At first, saving money feels restrictive. Investing feels confusing. Building a side hustle feels overwhelming. But if you keep pushing, something shifts. Progress accelerates, habits solidify, and opportunities multiply. That's when the flywheel takes over. The role of patience. Momentum doesn't guarantee overnight success. In fact, the early stages of wealth building often feel slow. Many give up because they don't see quick results. But patience is the bridge between your first dollar and real wealth. Consider a bamboo tree. For years, it shows no visible growth while developing roots underground. Then suddenly, it shoots up several feet in weeks. Wealth works similarly. Early progress is invisible, but with persistence, growth suddenly becomes visible and exponential. Surround yourself with energy. Momentum is easier to maintain when you surround yourself with others moving in the same direction. Energy is contagious. Join groups, communities, or mastermind circles where financial growth is the norm. Seeing others progress fuels your own momentum and prevents isolation. Isolation breeds stagnation. Community breeds acceleration. A story of momentum. Take Mia, for example. She started by saving just $20 per week. It seemed insignificant, but within a year she had over $1,000. Inspired, she began learning about investing and put the money into index funds. At the same time, she started a small online shop. The shop earned her $200 in the first month. Small, yes, but it showed her what was possible. She reinvested profits, learned marketing, and scaled her income. Within 3 years, her shop generated more than her day job salary. Mia didn't start with thousands. She started with one small action, sustained it, and let momentum multiply the results. Closing thoughts. Momentum is the secret ingredient of wealth. It transforms small beginnings into unstoppable growth. Remember, the first dollar matters more than the thousandth. Consistency beats intensity. Systems create sustainability. Patience rewards persistence. Wealth is not about luck. It's about building momentum step by step until gravity takes over and your financial snowball rolls on its own. Now let me ask you, what's one small financial habit you can commit to today that will build momentum for your future? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your step. And if this chapter inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join me in the final chapter as we tie it all together in Think Rich, Live Free. Part 16. Conclusion. Think rich, live free. Every journey has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And yet the end of this book is only the beginning of your story. You've walked through ideas, principles, and mind shifts that distinguish the wealthy from those who remain trapped in financial struggle. But knowledge, as we've said many times, is only potential power. Real transformation happens when knowledge is lived. This conclusion is not about saying goodbye. It's about handing the torch to you. It's about reminding you that financial freedom is not reserved for the lucky few, nor is it an unattainable dream. It is a path, a process, and above all, a choice. Looking back on the journey, we began with the metaphor of two roads. One leads to dependence, a life where money dictates your choices. The other leads to freedom, a life where you dictate how money serves you. Along the way, you discovered the myths we were taught about money, the mindset shifts that separate employees from wealth builders, the power of assets, cash flow, and systems, the invisible forces of fear and doubt that sabotage progress, the discipline of momentum, patience, and compounding. Each chapter was designed as a building block. Taken together, they form a foundation strong enough to support not just wealth, but a life of choice, independence, and meaning. Freedom is more than money. It's important to remember that wealth is not about a number in your bank account. True freedom is about choice. It's about waking up each day with the power to decide how you'll spend your time, who you'll spend it with, and what impact you'll make. Money, in this sense, is a tool. It's fuel. It's the lever that multiplies your options. But freedom is the real destination. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what does freedom mean to you personally? Is it travel, family, impact, or simply peace of mind? There is no right answer, only your answer. And that answer should guide every financial decision you make. The wealth mindset is a lifestyle. Wealth is not a one-time achievement. It's a way of living. It's a mindset that asks, how can I create value? How can I multiply resources? How can I build systems that outlast me? The wealthy don't think in terms of transactions. They think in terms of legacy. They understand that the seeds they plant today may bear fruit for generations. When you embrace the wealth mindset, you stop chasing money and start shaping a life. Obstacles will come. It would be dishonest to suggest the road ahead is easy. You will face setbacks. Markets will shift. Investments may fail. Fear will whisper that you're not capable. Doubt will tempt you to quit. But here's the truth. Setbacks are not signs of failure. They're proof you're in the game. Each obstacle carries a lesson that strengthens you for the next stage. Think of every challenge as a toll booth on the highway to freedom. You pay the toll by learning the lesson, and then you continue on your journey. The power of daily choices. Grand visions are inspiring, but it's the daily choices that shape destiny. Will you save or spend? Invest or procrastinate? Learn or scroll? Connect or isolate? These choices may seem small, but compounded over months and years, they define your financial future. Wealth is built one decision at a time. So start where you are. Don't wait for perfect timing. Don't wait until you have more money, more knowledge, or more confidence. The perfect time will never come. The right time is always now. Writing your own wealth story. You've read countless examples and principles in these chapters, but ultimately, the most important story is yours. You get to write it. Imagine your life 5 years from today. Imagine what it feels like to wake up debt-free, with multiple streams of income, and with the freedom to design your schedule. Imagine the security of knowing your money is working harder than you ever could. That vision is not fantasy. It's the natural result of consistent action, disciplined choices, and the momentum we've explored. Passing it on wealth carries with it responsibility. Once you achieve financial freedom, the journey doesn't stop with you. Share what you've learned. Teach your children, your friends, your community. Empower others to break free from the myths that hold them back. Because true wealth is not measured only by what you keep, but by what you contribute. A final call to action. Now, as we close this book, the question is not what you've learned. The question is, what will you do? Will you start building your asset column today? Will you take that first step toward a side hustle or investment? Will you commit to the daily choices that create momentum? Your future self is waiting, and every decision you make now determines who that future self will be. So I'll ask you one last time, which road are you choosing? The road where money controls you, or the road where you control money? The choice is yours. Closing inspiration. Think rich, live free. These are not just words. They're a philosophy, a commitment, a promise you make to yourself. To think rich means to adopt the mindset of growth, creativity, and abundance. To live free means to claim the life that mindset makes possible. This is your invitation. This is your moment. Go build the life you were meant to live. If this journey spoke to you, share your reflections in the comments below. What was your biggest breakthrough from this book? Your insights might inspire someone else starting their own path. And if you've found value here, I'd be honored if you liked this video, subscribed to the channel, and joined me for future stories and lessons on wealth and freedom. Together, we can spread the message. Think rich, live free.